Revenge films.
My name is Kelly. I'm a full-time housewife living with my husband Ben, our 4-year-old daughter Mona, and my in-laws, the 5 of us together. Thankfully, I've maintained a good relationship with my in-laws, and I get along well with the other moms at my daughter's kindergarten. Everything had been going smoothly. But around the time our daughter turned 4, my husband started to change. Since we lived with his parents, he used to make sure to come home early every day so I wouldn't have to feel uncomfortable. Lately, though, he's been coming home late, saying he has to work overtime. The thing is, his company is known for having no overtime, so it's hard to believe he's actually working late every day. He's just an ordinary employee and has never gone on a business trip before, yet now he's been going away for 3 days at a time, claiming it's for work. Not only that, but he's become indifferent toward me and our daughter, and we hardly talk anymore. It was obvious something was off, so I decided to keep an eye on him. Then one day, out of the blue, one of the moms from my daughter's kindergarten, Ruby, asked me to meet her at a nearby family restaurant. She isn't someone I'm particularly close to. In fact, she's the kind of person I usually try to avoid. She's flashy, strong-willed, and always bragging about how wealthy she is because her husband is an elite businessman. She's disliked by most of the other moms, so I've never really interacted with her. Our kids aren't especially close either, so I had no idea why she suddenly wanted to see me. Still, I couldn't just ignore her, so I reluctantly went to the meeting place. When I arrived, she waved me over from a table. I smiled and said, "Hello," as I sat down. Then she said, "I have something important to tell you." When I asked what it was, she said, "Actually, I'm seeing your husband." At first, I laughed it off, saying, "What are you talking about? That's not funny." But when she looked me straight in the eye and said, "No, it's true," I suddenly remembered all of my husband's recent behavior. I didn't want to believe he was having an affair with a mom friend, of all people, but it seemed like she was telling the truth. I was so shocked I couldn't say a word, and Ruby went on. "If you agree to divorce him right away, I'll pay you $33,000 in compensation, in a lump sum." I asked, "Are you sure about that amount?" She replied cheerfully, "Of course." It wasn't something I could just take at her word, so I made her write down the amount of compensation and child support on paper, sign it, and stamp it with her seal. I knew I needed to confirm everything with my husband, so that night I stayed up waiting for him to come home. Around midnight, my husband finally came home. I stopped him and asked, "Is there something you're hiding from me?" Without hesitation, as if he already knew what I was talking about, he said,
"Oh, you mean the affair?"
Holding back my anger, I told him that Ruby had asked me to divorce him right away. He replied casually,
"Ruby's rich, right? You'll get a big settlement, won't you? Then maybe you should just do what she says."
He spoke as if it had nothing to do with him, showing no sense of guilt for betraying me and our daughter. I couldn't hold it in anymore and shouted, "Don't mess with me! Tell me the truth about what you've done and apologize!" Looking annoyed, he began to talk about the whole affair. He said he met Ruby at our daughter's kindergarten sports day, and they ran into each other by chance at his favorite bar. They started talking, got along well, and gradually grew closer. Eventually, Ruby confided that things weren't going well with her husband, and as he comforted her, they started to develop feelings for each other. After a while, Ruby told him she wanted to divorce her husband and be with him. She even said she would pay all the compensation and child support herself, and my husband seemed ready to take advantage of that. I couldn't believe he was willing to throw away his family without paying any price for his actions. Disgusted, I said, "I'll take Mona and leave," then agreed to the divorce. The next day, after putting my daughter to bed before my husband came home, I decided to tell my in-laws about the divorce. When they learned that their son had been having an affair with one of the moms from kindergarten, they were filled with anger and sorrow. Through tears, they said, "We're cutting ties with Ben as our son, but please, let us still see Mona after the divorce." I nodded quietly and said, "Thank you for everything you've done for us," then packed my things and left the house. My parents' home was close to my daughter's kindergarten, so moving back there didn't cause any particular problems. I mailed the divorce papers to my in-laws' house and waited for the compensation and child support to be paid. Then one day, my husband and Ruby suddenly showed up at my parents' house. When I asked, "What do you want?" my husband said,
"Please, lower the compensation and child support."
When I asked what he meant, Ruby said, "I thought when a woman gets divorced, she's the one who receives the compensation. But after I actually got divorced, my husband demanded I pay him compensation. So there's no way I can pay you $33,000. I was stunned by how clueless she was. What are you talking about? The person who caused the divorce is the one who pays compensation. You're going to pay the $33,000 and the child support as promised. Ruby shouted back. Well, that's impossible. My husband is demanding compensation from me, too. Then my husband joined in, saying angrily,
I can't believe you're such a cold-hearted person!
As if I was the one in the wrong. Furious, I pulled out the paper Ruby had written and signed by hand. You signed this, didn't you? I agreed to the divorce because you promised to pay compensation and child support. If you don't intend to keep your word, I'll take this to a lawyer. My husband exploded, yelling at Ruby.
What? You never told me about this document! I only agreed to the divorce because you said you'd handle everything! You tricked me!
Ruby refused to back down and shouted, You're the one who said you wanted to be with me! The two of them started arguing right there in my parents' living room. I had had enough and tried to make them leave, but then my husband suddenly said,
I've come to my senses, Kelly. You're the only one for me. Please, let's start over.
At that moment, my father came out of the living room and shouted,
Don't be ridiculous. Do you really think things work that conveniently? What do you take my daughter for?
He then forced both of them out of the house. After that, I went through a lawyer and demanded compensation and child support from my husband. Disowned by his parents and kicked out of their house, he ended up living with Ruby. To pay the compensation each of them owed their former spouses, they had to take on multiple part-time jobs, working day and night with hardly any time to sleep. As for Ruby, she lost custody of her child to her ex-husband, and after losing her family and falling into poverty, began taking out her frustration on my husband. As a result, the two of them started fighting physically almost every day, sometimes so violently that the police had to get involved. Eventually, my husband couldn't stand that life anymore and called me in tears, saying he wanted to see our daughter. But since she doesn't want to see him, I'm not considering visitation for now. As for me, I moved back into my parents' home and returned to work soon after becoming a single mother. I now work part-time at a daycare center while raising my daughter. Once she's older, I plan to switch to full-time work and focus on building a stable future for us. I still see my in-laws from time to time, and they continue to love my daughter just as much as they did when we lived together. I can never forgive my husband for what he did, but I truly hope to maintain a good relationship with his parents. From now on, I just want to think about my daughter's happiness and raise her with love, no matter what happens.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.